Welcome to the Campfire Curmudgeon podcast. My name is Nicholas Jones.
And I'm Heidi, yes.
And today we are talking about aliens.
We're talking about Stardust Ranch.
And Arizona.
Yeah.
And Stardust Ranch. What is Stardust Ranch?
Well, Stardust Ranch is a home and a ranch that's owned by John Edmonds and his wife Joyce. Where is this located, Nick? I think you were looking that up a little bit.
Somewhere in Buckeye. It's
yeah,
something like
it's
Rainbow Valley.
Rainbow Valley, but it's basically Buckeye. We decided to do this because.
And for those who are not local, Buckeye is where in relation to Phoenix?
I'm gonna sneeze.
Okay. Awesome. You're welcome, listeners.
I was like, no.
All right. Buckeye, for those who are not local to central and southern Arizona, is where in relation to Phoenix?
Not near Phoenix.
It is west of Phoenix.
It's far away.
South.
It's like, what, a couple hours, I think?
No, it's about an hour.
Oh, I thought it was closer to 2 hours.
No, that's the Arizona border. Or the Arizona-California border. This is basically just outside of Phoenix on the west side of town.
I know where it is. I thought when we looked it up it was like 2 hours.
It's west of South Mountain.
Yes, it is.
Yes. And then south.
West and then south. The reason we decided to talk about this is actually the information about this ranch that has been the activity that's been going on. Mm-hmm. It's actually something that's been known about for a little bit. So Ghost Adventures, that TV show, the Ghost Bros, Ghost Bro? You see it? You hear that Ghost Bro? Yeah.
Totally hear that Ghost. It got cold in here, bro. I need your jacket, bro. Dude, bro.
Shush. They did an episode on this, I think,
spoon me, bro.
Last year. Whoa. I mean, you're wrong. I think they did an episode last year on this, but recently this has been in the news. Again, a lot of different news agencies, like online, have been reporting on this because I think they might have just recently listed the house for sale again. They kind of like list it on and off. Like if you look on Zillow or like Redfin or one of those sites, you'll see like removed, added like a bunch of times. So I'm sure it was something there. It just popped back up on the market again. This house
and also it's making like local news around the world, right? You know, when they do like the stupid squirrel water skiing video or like, hey, here's a quirky story.
So John Edmonds bought the house in 1992 with his wife, and Edmonds, he's a psychiatric therapist, and his wife is an ex-FBI employee. I'm not sure what she did for the FBI, just was able to find out that she worked in some capacity for them. Nick, what was the price when they bought that house?
$160,000.
$160,000. That's what they bought it for in 1992?
93.
Oh, 93.
According to the publicly made
public records sometimes take a little bit longer.
Real estate listing, so it could just be. And then it looks like it said sold again, public records for $237,000.
So that was probably when the Edmonds bought it? $237,000 because that would have been
April of 96, it says.
96. Well, the article I pulled this from probably has some wrong information there, but we'll go off of public records. So they bought this ranch for under $300,000, and what they're claiming is happening with this ranch right now is that they are being terrorized by extraterrestrials that are visiting this ranch. So this ranch, it's a 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom ranch. It's got some horse corrals, a pool. It also has a guest house.
Lot size is 5 to 9.9 acres.
And what are they currently asking for this?
$5 million.
$5 million. Do you see on there, does it tell you like how much they think that it's worth? The Redfin or Zillow, sometimes it's like, here's what we estimate that it's worth.
No.
Because that seems like a huge jump from what they bought it to what they're trying to sell it for. So that's something that a lot of people that have been doing any sort of research, or even just people that have been expressing their opinions, that's something that a lot of people have said it seems very interesting that this couple is claiming that they're being terrorized. They want to leave this house, but they're trying to sell it for well above asking price. What is your opinion on that, Nicholas? Do you have any first thoughts?
I think that they're good at pushing the public media relations vibe. And they probably, I don't know
if they're good at it. They haven't sold it yet.
I know. But they got the attention.
That's true.
Why are we doing this episode?
We're doing this episode because it's aliens,
yes.
obviously, and because it's here in Arizona,
yes.
which makes it extra fun. So this couple, they're claiming that the aliens that visit them are what they believe to be greys. And some people, if you're not familiar with UFO jargon, according to extraterrestrials.wikia.com, the greys are either called gray aliens or simply grays, sometimes Roswell gray. So they are the ones that are supposedly the most often reported aliens for abductions. So this is the ones that people believe they saw in the Roswell crash in New Mexico in 1947. They're described as being grayish colored, sometimes like kind of green, but like with very gray skin, large heads, large black eyes, tiny little nostrils, like almost like snake, like little slits. They've got tiny mouths, really thin bodies, so it's like their head is way too big for their body, like little bobblehead guys.
Also, they're shorter than humans.
Yep, they're supposed to be pretty short. A lot
like
of people say, like 3 to 4 feet. A lot of people speculate that the FBI or the federal government is holding some of the bodies of the aliens from the Roswell crash in a military base known as Area 51. So I'm sure a lot of people have heard some information about Area 51, some about the stuff that goes on, but a lot of people believe that they still have these bodies and that these were the ones that were specifically from the crash. So interesting. If anybody wants to get into this, I'm sure we'll do an episode where we talk about this. There's a lot of different types of species that people believe exist. I don't know if you want to say species or races of different aliens that come from different areas, but these ones seem to be the most popular. A lot of we have like a lot of cartoons or iconography imagery of them, little tiny green or gray aliens. A lot of the time, like in cartoons, they're green because I guess that's more fun.
Little green men.
Little green men, but it's the same kind of basic image. And John is saying that when the couple first moved into the home, they had some weird experiences. Like the previous owners had all of this, like all of these belongings that were outside. So it sounds kind of like they had left them there to pick up at a later date, but this was after John and his wife actually gained possession of the house, and so he had called them and said, like, can you please come get your stuff? And they had said, yes, we will.
Right, that's like a realtor's nightmare. It's just hey, get your previous occupants. Once the house is sold, you need to get all your shit out of the house. That happened
with me.
Yeah.
They left a bunch of junk in the garage and in the shed and refused to come get it. My realtor was not pleased. He was like, that is the rudest thing. We had to go through and throw out like a ton of stuff. It was a pain. But he called them and they said, yeah, okay, we'll come get it. And then the next day, I think it was like the day after that, he and his wife noticed that the pool was filled up with their belongings. So I don't know if the pool had been drained and they were just in there, or if they were like floating in the pool.
No, the pool was empty, I think.
I don't know. It doesn't. I didn't specify the article I looked at, but he thought they did it. He thought that the previous residents came back and were like, screw you, and threw it in the pool.
Right, and then the previous residents came back.
Yeah, and they were like, why did you do that? We said we'd come. He was like, I thought you did that. Because I believe that like he and his wife had actually gained possession of the house, but they weren't moved in yet. They hadn't started their moving in process. So it was something probably as they were walking around looking, they noticed their belongings. So they were like, we weren't at the house. We don't know what happened. And when they were actually moving into the house, he was outside, John was outside, and he saw a man on his property. And you mentioned the lot size. It's a very large lot. There's a guest house. So, a lot of space. And he saw a man, and the man came up to him, and he was carrying a machete. And John was like, who are you? And the guy told him that he lived there. John was like, no, you don't. This is my house. Get off my property. I'm going to call the police. And he was like, I live here. There's monsters on your property. and I'm here to kill them. I take care of them.
This guy's the living part of the medieval map before the New World, where it just shows like basically Europe and Africa, and then where the U.S. North and South America would be. It just says
monsters.
There be monsters.
Yeah. Well, how much of like a horror story setup is this? You've got this old ranch, and so this ranch is kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it on a map, there's not that much around it. There's a few other houses or
Rainbow
ranches
Valley
or whatever.
Rainbow Valley implies a lot of color. This is just dirt.
No, it's out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So this man just coming up to you telling you like, oh, by the way, I take care of the monsters that live on your property. And basically he told the guy to get lost, and he says that he and his wife have never seen him again. So the guy didn't come back. But I'm just like, this sounds like such a horror movie. Like, you move in, you're out in the middle of nowhere. Some guy's like, I kill the monsters. And you're like, no, you don't. Goodbye. He told them when he left, he was like, you're going to regret this. Basically, he said, you're going to regret this. And what the couple are stating is that since they've moved in, they have been attacked by these aliens physically. So
he's a psychiatric therapist?
Yes, he
I thought psychiatrists were by definition therapists.
There's a difference in
like basically if you're a psychiatrist, it
that's
implies
different than being
that
a psychiatric therapist.
Really?
Yeah, you're a therapist that deals in psychiatric matters. It doesn't mean you're a psychiatrist.
Okay. There's there's clinical psychologists, which is therapists.
Yeah.
And there's like academic psychologists, or
you can be a therapist without having any sort of
but a psychiatrist is an MD that specifically studies.
So to be a psychiatric therapist, you do not have to be an MD.
No?
I believe. No. You get your degree in being a therapist.
Is it like an associate's degree?
Hang on.
Because like the thing is like this guy's not a professional thinker. Like he from his Instagram and whatnots, he shows pictures of the graves. He's like, this is one of the graves that attacked us, and it's like, dude, that is a piece of plastic. That is a toy. Or something.
he has images of them like out in his yard or his property. He has like far away pictures that are pretty interesting. Okay, with a bachelor's degree, a person can work as a mental counseling aide or a social service worker. A master's degree is necessary to become a certified or licensed as a mental therapist. Mm-hmm. Sometimes for certain types of mental health therapy, you have to have a doctorate. So to do specifically what he does, I believe he probably just has a degree in psychiatric therapy. He is not a psychiatrist. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm seeing. If anybody knows about this stuff, feel free to correct us. Anybody works in this field, anybody is a medical doctor, a psychiatrist, whatever, yell at us. Let us know.
Yeah, if we have an MD in our
tweet
audience,
at us.
Please email me.
Tweet at us and tell us how dumb we are. It's fine. But from what I understand, he's not a psychiatrist. There's a definite difference.
Okay, so it's not the level of expertise of MD psychiatrist.
Yes, from what I understand. But so they're stating that they've had all these attacks. They see them. They see a lot of these grays. They terrorize them just by being there, popping into their life, and by physical attacks. They wake up with bruises. Like you were saying, John posts on his Facebook and his Instagram a lot about some of the strange marks that he'll have, and a lot of the time he states that they're due to a direct attack. Like he'll say that he's just battled one or he's just been attacked by one, and this is what was left on his body. He says that his wife has gotten attacked a lot. In the Ghost Hunters episode, I think a lot of the interviews they did with her...
Ghost Hunters or Adventures?
Or Ghost Adventures.
Yeah.
Thanks for correcting me there. Ghost Adventures.
Because believe it or not, there is a hierarchy to these
There is.
shows.
Oh, there is. She did not want to be named, but we have her name and what she did for a living, because a lot of people have done some research into it. I mean, it's public record. If you're putting your address out there, it's pretty easy to find out who owns the house, who signed the papers. So, but part of why his wife didn't really want to talk about it is she is saying, as well as he is saying, that she has actually been molested by the creatures. I didn't look too much into how specifically, But he's claiming that he's walked in on them molesting her. She's saying she's had experiences being molested by them. You are making a face. What are you thinking right now?
I'm just thinking, like, I don't know, sexual assault, molestation, and
it's pretty serious.
Like,
and
it's serious, and like to bring this level of stuff into it is like, oh, I don't want to talk about it. I'm a very private person, but it turns out the aliens touched me without my consent, or just
what it seems like. So John has been very vocal about this for a long time. I haven't really seen anything where she has come out and posted and stated all this. So I mean, if your husband's throwing all of your dirty laundry, so to speak, out there, you may not have much choice. If he kind of outs you, you have to, you know what I'm saying? So what I'm stating is I don't necessarily believe that they are having Greys come on their property.
Right.
It seems weird that they would be picking on this same couple over and over and fighting them, attacking them. Like, what would be the purpose? Are you trying to get them to leave? Like, why? So to me, if something paranormal is going on, because I do believe that potentially they are on a spot of heavy paranormal activity for one reason or another, maybe some of the experiences they're having, maybe they are seeing things, feeling things, experiencing different...
In interviews, I think he said they've talked about the interdimensionality of these aliens. It's not necessarily from
a little bit. Well, that's something that some people...
Universe,
some people have... said that it could be like a lot of people believe in Sedona that there's these vortexes that are all connected that potentially some people state might be like doorways into other dimensions, and that was something that some people have stated with Stardust Ranch, and that's something I think could be potentially is that might be some sort of like little rip in our like space-time continuum there, or like some portal, some way that a possible other dimension is somehow leaking into ours. That is one thing that it could be. Also, depending on what type of minerals that are near their ranch, what type of if there's any sort of like nuclear activity that's ever happened in that area.
Well,
I'd be interested to see if there's ever any tests. I mean, we don't always know about sites that were tested.
I think they stayed away from Phoenix.
There's some places in Arizona where nuclear testing was done.
I'm sure. But it's also not that far from Palo Verde.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people think that could have something to do with it. So what I'm saying is they could potentially be having actual experiences for one reason or other. It could be something that is happening due to the environment that's causing these types of, they could be hallucinations even. They could be, that's not to detract and say like you're not experiencing this.
Right.
If there is something causing a hallucination, that can feel very real. That can seem very real. You still had that experience, but it doesn't make it extraterrestrial. So his wife could actually be having an experience to where she feels one way or another that something is molesting her or invading her privacy, doing something that makes her feel very uncomfortable, even assaulted. And, it may be that thing to where once he kind of came out and said that, she didn't really have any privacy left. I mean, at that point, it's you can go nah, or you can just kind of yes and it. So...
Yeah, it's 29 miles east of the nuclear station.
Yeah, so very close.
But how come neighbors? Hello.
Well, just because the neighbors haven't come forward doesn't mean they're not experiencing something. How often have you heard something that was kind of weird and you ignore it because you don't really want to like bring it up or tell somebody?
Right.
You know, like you're in a place alone, you hear something, you see something, and you're just like, huh. Goofy imagination, and you move on with your life.
Yeah, but I figure once it's a local news story, it'd be like, well, I'm having that too, and then
some people will,
right.
Some people will absolutely not, because also a lot of people seem to have this. I think it's like a built-in defense mechanism. It's like your brain's like safety switch to where some people can be like they can see the most horrific thing, and they have like this off switch, and I think a lot of Trump voters have this, where they can deny something even if it's right in front of their face because it's a way to protect themselves.
I don't want
a little political with that.
That's okay. But can we make a distinction?
Sure.
Trump voter versus Trump supporter.
Yeah, supporter. You're right.
because I know a
Better,
lot.
better
there are
verbiage.
people in my life, and I'm sure yours and our audience,
Just a few.
where they know someone who voted for Trump, but also right now we're 9 months in,
and
or
they're like,
10
whoops.
months in, and they're just like, holy shit.
But what I'm talking
And
about
they're
is
rolling
those
their eyes
people
just as
that
hard as us.
are like, oh, everything's all right no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
It's the people that sometimes it can be a good thing because first responders have this to a point. Your police officers, your firefighters, your EMTs, your paramedics, they have this because they have to be able to look at somebody whose arm has just been ripped off in a car accident and be like, oh, you're fine. This is fine. Like, it's okay. And then just do their job. Like they're able to calm the person down, do their job, get the person to the hospital, get them medical attention. Because, I mean, if I saw somebody's arm ripped off, I'd probably be like, ah, holy shit. Like, you know, you're like having that internal, like, your brain is just like fireworks going off in your mind because it's so horrific. But you can't, if that's your job and your job is to help this person, you can't have that. You have to have that switch to where you can turn it off. Some people have that to a degree where if something paranormal or scary or that they don't understand is happening, they will deny it.
Right. And the thing is, some people rush into delusion. I just watched a movie last night. It was about a psychiatric ward, and it was a movie about multiple personalities. And it's basically like, oh, that is a symptom, and it's not a superpower. It's basically like somebody's psyche is so traumatized and fractured emotionally that they dive into this, like their brain can't cohere one person anymore.
Yeah.
It has to basically split it into...
It's a way to protect themselves.
Yes.
So a lot of the time they'll create a protective personality that protects the actual personality, and if there are others, the other personalities as well. It's a way to cope with.
I'm gonna push my childhood into a personality and my
you can kind of literally separate yourself from it. So
that being said, it's like, well, this is the same phenomenon, just backed off a notch.
And that's what I'm saying is they don't have that many neighbors. If you pull up like a view, like you can see the house on there. If you pull it up on Google Maps, there's not houses super close. I'm sure they know their neighbors because out there it's like that's all there is your neighbors. But there are some people that they may have lived there for years and years. They may not be able to move, or they may not want to move. And if they admit that they have seen some of this, like paranormal activity, if they state that, then they have to come to terms with that. And that's something that I think some people just aren't ready to do, because if it's like you pretend that you don't see the things and you move on with your life, you never have to confront that. So I don't think just because their neighbors haven't come forward and said that they've seen something, it doesn't mean that there's nothing there. And I'm also, I think that a lot of the time with paranormal activity, depending on the type of activity, I think that if you pay attention to it and admit that you see it, the activity gets worse. And that can even happen, in my opinion, with something that is just like a residual haunting that has no intelligence. It's just a replaying of events that is somehow imprinted on the surrounding area where the event took place. I feel like if you notice it, it's that thing where it's like, if you start thinking about yellow cars, you see yellow cars everywhere. It's like once your eyes are open to it,
you're talking about the frequency illusion, also known as
the frequency illusion to a little bit.
The Baader-Meinhof phenomenon.
Yeah, it's that thing where it's like now that you're paying attention, it's not that there's more yellow cars suddenly. It's that
every yellow car that you come across jumps out at you as if it's significant.
You're looking for them. So it's that thing of if you live somewhere where there's potentially like a residual haunting, once you notice it, you're going to keep noticing it. You're not going to be like, oh, I saw that once and now I'm going to ignore it. It's like every time it happens, you're going to be like, there it is again.
It's out in the desert, and things out in the desert are weird.
They're super weird.
Like, just have you ever gone hiking or walking through the low desert at night? I wouldn't advise it. It's creepy. But it's weird because, off in the distance,
you'll quiet hear, but loud at the same time.
You'll hear coyotes. Yeah. You'll be walking, and if you don't have like headphones in or something, if you could actually hear like stuff moving through.
And depending on where you are, if you're close to the mountain, sometimes you can hear your footsteps echoing back at you, and it sounds like someone's following you.
It does sound exactly like someone's following you.
You'll step, and your step will echo back, and it takes a while to get to you. So it's like someone's behind me walking. So
you stop walking, and then your follower stops walking.
Slightly after you, and you're like, uh-oh.
Yeah, it's easy to freak yourself out in the desert here in Arizona.
It really is, but I think, I'm hoping, what I hope is that they are not using molestation, sexual assault, what have you, to
increase the
value of their house, or
like basically believe me because it's bad.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is I hope that, like, if the purpose is monetary gain for selling this house, that's a lot, or just, fame, infamy, I hope that they're not using sexual assault in that manner, because that's
right. It seems
so horrific. That's kind of monstrous.
Seems like a very big gamble on a marketing ploy. And it's like, oh, well, that increases the value of this home. Buy this house and you'll be freaked the fuck out. And you might be molested by aliens.
Some people are like, ooh, I want to experience something. Let's buy the house. But unfortunately, there's still a stigma against victims of sexual assault or sexual attacks, any molestation.
I don't know why. It's like 1 in 3 women.
And that's the problem is, you've seen it. You've seen it on Twitter. You've seen it on Facebook. A woman claims that she has had some sort of, she's been raped, she's been touched inappropriately, something. And how many people immediately attack her?
Yeah.
They don't know her. They don't know anything about her life.
Fucking insane.
They don't know the man that she's claiming did it. They have no stake in it.
She was dressed provocatively. She could have been
everything.
Wearing she could have been wearing
she's lying. She wants
bikini.
Attention. She wants money. It's immediately. And so, to me,
they're taking advantage of the hashtag #MeToo campaign.
They've been reporting this for a long time.
I understand,
but what I'm stating
what
is
I'm saying is I don't believe them, and it's not because she's saying she was assaulted. She's saying she was assaulted by aliens.
Well, what I'm
I
saying,
can't even say that with a straight face because it's awful.
She could feel that way.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that I sincerely hope that when it is so hard for young women and young men, young men come forward even less, but when it is that hard for a person who has been a victim of any type of sexual assault to come forward, for fear that they won't be believed, or that, people will immediately blame them, people will look down upon them, and it's somehow stupidly their fault, when we have that kind of an atmosphere for somebody to say something that seems to us to be outlandish. And I sincerely hope that this individual truly believes this. And if this individual truly believes this,
it's like one of those things where it's like, if
you're
a true believer, then I
can't say she's wrong.
It's morally more acceptable than if you're just cravenly
That's what I'm saying.
Cynical.
If she's felt that something has happened to her, and she does truly believe that it was paranormal, it was alien activity,
we can look upon her with sympathy.
Fine.
You're right. Yeah.
That's fine, because we don't know what happened. We don't know if that's a coping mechanism. She could have been molested by somebody.
Right.
And, unfortunately, sometimes it's just so horrible that your brain...
But as a reasonable human being, we can at least look upon her with sympathy, right?
Yes.
To some extent. You're like, okay, so you really, do you think this happened?
Well, some people don't want sympathy, so I don't think we should say sympathy. But we can look with understanding, and we can... So I'm not going to judge whether or not I believe that this is true, because of the fact that they
But reasonable people look at people that hold absolutely irrational belief as, like, they pity them in a way. We're like, oh.
But you shouldn't, because people also pity somebody in a wheelchair, and that's ableist and silly.
I understand. I'm talking about mentally believing things that are not true.
That's ableist.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Mm-mm.
Why would you pity somebody with mental health issues?
Because they
don't want your pity.
Right.
It's ableist.
But it's in a situation where
we're in a fight.
Yeah. I think that, it could be a legit mental illness, but this country has no idea how to solve that problem.
Which is what I'm saying, and I understand that you're saying people do pity. I guess what I'm trying to say is they shouldn't, because when I've had issues from my own health struggles and people pity me, I want to hit them in the face.
Right.
Like, I'm sorry. And I know that even some of my friends may have showed oh, or a pity. And it's unfortunately, it's that doesn't make me feel better. And it makes the fact that I'm using a wheelchair or a cane so much worse, because it's you're already oh great, everyone's looking at me. They're watching me use my wheelchair. They're watching me struggle because I don't use it all the time. And now everybody's asking me questions and people are pitying me. And it's made me not go out in public.
But I'm talking about the things we choose to believe are actually choices. I think some of the time it is choices. And we're talking about something as widespread belief as aliens. I believe aliens exist. I don't think they're here yet.
So do I.
So, but the same level of examination and scrutiny could be applied to people that believe 9/11 was an inside job, or
No.
Sandy Hook truthers.
Yes and no.
Right.
What I'm stating is that she's saying she was molested.
Right.
If she's stating that she was molested,
Mm-hmm.
because I do not victim blame and I cannot automatically jump to the you're full of shit conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
The conclusions I can make is she was molested by something she can't explain and appeared to her to be extraterrestrial. She could have, like we were talking
you're going
about
through the options, so of course I
Yeah.
just gestured to could be.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, you were talking about multiple personalities.
Mm-hmm.
There are other ways people cope with horrible tragedies,
Yeah.
and sometimes they will picture whoever attacked them as a literal monster because it's something so horrific your brain can't process that a person could do this to you, that
Especially with a person
you're
they
going
know,
to see
possibly.
something.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying, is that the reason I won't just laugh at them and say they're full of shit, like a lot of people that
Mhm.
have read about the Stardust are like, oh, they're full of shit, they want more money for their house. Those things have crossed my mind,
Mhm.
but because they have actually brought it to the next level and claimed that his wife is now being molested, I can't just say, oh, silly little full of shit. It's either you guys are being extremely monstrous
Yeah.
and you are being
Cravenly cynical and taking advantage
yeah,
of
it's detrimental
Yeah.
to people who've actually had these experiences, or something is happening to one or both of the people living in this house,
Mhm.
and this is how they are explaining it. So that's all I'm stating here, is that I think when somebody comes out and says that they were molested and that it was an alien and people laugh at them, I think, I do believe aliens exist. I do believe potentially they do, experiments on people or whatever, that maybe they have had some contact with people. But regardless of that,
Mhm.
even if aliens don't exist, what I'm saying is if somebody came to me and told me they got molested by Bigfoot, I'm going to believe something happened to them,
Sure.
just because that's not something that we generally like to come out and say has happened to us.
Yeah, everybody's
It's not
told a tall
something-
tale. Like, I caught a fish this big, but no,
Yeah.
that's a that's an impressive
Well,
story.
there's a difference between
then
saying I saw Bigfoot and Bigfoot did something bad to me that now is going to affect me for the rest of my life.
Right, and it's like,
That's
whoa,
different.
This is a different level of
Yes.
I can't immediately do the automatic knee-jerk debunking. Like, that's a fabulous tale. Like,
Exactly. And I think we need to be careful of that, is when people are making these kinds of comments, we need to look a little bit deeper into what's actually going on here and maybe have a little bit more, I wouldn't say sympathy, but understanding that they are believing something is happening to them or they're horrible monsters, but since we don't know,
Yeah.
we can't assume. We can't assume that it's made up. We have to assume something is happening to them that they can't explain.
Mhm.
Of course, at the same time, if something is happening to the wife, I hope that the husband is not exploiting it for monetary gain with listing their house for $5 million. And
Which is about 100%, or it's 1,000% overvalued. It probably is worth 500,000.
yeah, I've seen that it could be worth that due to the house, the guest house, and the amount of land and the horse
pool
corrals.
and the horse corrals.
The pool doesn't really factor in,
Yeah.
but I don't know. The thing to me is, if she's so terrified and he's so terrified, I don't understand why they're listing the house for so much. And John has had a lot of people asking that, and a lot of people kind of like, well, what's your problem? And he states that he's put that much into it. What his
Mhm.
claim is that he's had horses, he's had other animals that have been attacked. He's saying they
Mhm.
were attacked by these, and who knows, maybe they were actually killed by something or someone. And so he's had to, buy a lot of horses. He's had to keep up the property. A property like that, especially, do you know what year the house was built? I think it was
No, but from the inside,
70s to
in interviews,
80s.
it's like
Yeah. So I
brick.
own a house
It's-
that was built in 85.
the
and
interior walls are the brick
Yeah.
exterior. Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I'm always fixing something.
Mhm.
Like, I joke that it's falling apart around my head, but I mean, our home inspector was like, man, I don't even see new houses built like this. And I'm just like, how? I'm always patching and repairing and fixing. So I know how much money it costs
Mhm.
to keep up a property like this. And especially with all that land, all those animals, outbuildings, all sorts of stuff, I can see that, yeah, you probably put some money into it, but it's silly to think that you are going to get every dime you put into your house back.
Yeah.
Like, I could fix up my pool right now for $5,000, and it's not going to add $5,000 to the value of my house.
Right.
I'm going to lose that. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And
if it's a ranch,
yeah,
you got to figure you have that on multiple levels.
Because you're putting that money in. So, I mean, it could just be that he is really naive and actually thinks there are some people, like my parents, when they went to sell their house, they put so much work into the house. And I kept telling them, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you doing that? Because they thought, like, oh, sweat equity, and we're going to get it back on our taxes, and it'll make the house sell for more. And I saw houses, that also sold in their neighborhood that didn't have that much work put into them for the same price, or maybe just a little bit less, but it wasn't enough to justify how much time and money they spent fixing it. And that's like an older mentality that people have with this idea of sweat equity that we don't have anymore. Mm-hmm. So it could just be that John still has this thought that, like, oh, it's worth $5 million because I've put so much money into it and so much time. Sorry, buddy. If it's as bad as you guys say, get out. Take a loss. Get out of there. So
otherwise you'll get soaked by like your parents.
Yeah. What's that
Hi,
face?
Tim. Hi, Diane.
No, they were fine.
Okay.
It's just what I'm saying was they could have not done everything they did and still sold the house for the exact same amount.
Okay.
They didn't make any more off of it. It was just, and like I told
them.
So
they probably got their asking price, but it was just like
But
the
it was
amount
that thing of
effort.
like all the paint and stuff, and I told them the first thing I would do if I bought this house is paint every bloody room because I hate the colors you chose. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing most people do. Like, nobody buys a house and is like, oh, I love everything. Like, maybe, sure, I'm sure it happens, but most people that get a house are like, oh, you thought bright yellow was the best color ever. No, goodbye. Before I moved into my house, I painted because I couldn't stand some of the choices they made. So that's all I'm saying is that if his claim is that I put this in, I should get this out, like, dude, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Houses are money pits. Welcome to the real world. But that is where my skepticism comes in. That and some of the other claims that John has made.
Why?
With,
money doesn't motivate people.
Right? I don't know. I mean, just that's what makes me kind of have that, like, you better not be fucking with us. Like, that in my head is like, I'm like, if this is just for money and you're claiming that your wife is being molested,
I mean,
like,
otherwise it's just a giant F you to actual victims, right?
Yes, and that's what makes
that's the anger part coming out.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that also hurts is basically it's like, it takes so much shit for a woman to actually, like, come forward, or a victim, not just a woman, like any victim of assault to come forward and say, yes, this happened to me. And, like, false reporting doesn't really happen. And then out of the woodwork, there'll be some horrible human being woman who invents a story of, like,
for revenge or whatever,
for false
well, and the problem is too,
and it's just like that gets all the attention from, like, the monstrous men that are out there that are just like, see, she's
and it's that like, thing where it's like, I always tell people,
you're just poisoning the water.
Almost everybody I know has gone to Mexico. I know so many people that vacation in Mexico all the time. Yeah. They love it. They have a great time. Guess what? They're not in the news.
Yeah.
They don't go on the news and go, we went to Cancun, we had a great time. Like, it doesn't happen.
Right, or we went to Rocky Point.
Yeah,
my friend is in there, down there this weekend for her 40th birthday party.
Happy birthday, have fun.
Yeah.
But what you see, unfortunately, don't get kidnapped, is the people that get kidnapped or they got mugged or something horrible happens.
Stay way the hell out of the tourist areas.
No, not even that. Don't victim blame. But what I'm stating is that when something bad happens, that's newsworthy.
It gets all the spotlight.
No one cares that somebody from some town went to Mexico and had a great time. Cool story. I don't care. What people want to hear about is, like, the disaster. So it's like when somebody comes up and makes a false report, that's newsworthy because, unfortunately, sexual assault is so common. It happens.
The false report is the exception. Right?
Yeah, it happens so often that it's not news anymore, which is horrible.
Right.
And I wish that was different. I wish that it was like, wow, somebody actually got molested. That's news. But it's not. It's so common. And I really hope that whatever is happening at this ranch has some sort of explanation to where something is going on.
I also like the idea of people nicknaming their property that they own.
I love that.
Just the idea of like
Ranch,
Stardust Ranch.
Well, people always do that with like big properties out here. Like you'll see a lot of the ranches and manors and whatever. People name those.
I remember when Foursquare was a thing. You'd see people name their house.
People still do it on Google.
Yeah.
But well, also too, it makes it easier if you're somebody that has horses and you're getting like food for the horses delivered. You're like, yeah, come to Stardust Ranch. Here's the address. Like, it makes it easier for things like that. Like, oh, Stardust Ranch has a tab with us, or whatever.
Or the giant sign, right? Because if you're
you have a big old sign, yep, Stardust Ranch. You're like, oh, I'm at the right place.
I can't misdeliver this to the neighbors. Yeah.
But
whereas now I live in a condo amongst many other condos that look identical, and it's like, I hope my Amazon order gets delivered to where it should be.
Right. But what the couple are claiming is that during one of these attacks, John's wife was almost kidnapped. So John's saying that he went in the room and she was levitating, and then there was a cone of light that came down. And she started to rise into it. So this is kind of that stereotypical alien abduction image we get in our heads. You know exactly what I'm talking about, I'm sure. You see like the flying saucer, and there's like a little beam of light, and there's like a cow or a person in the beam of light going up. This is what he's describing. And he says, this is a quote, he says, I grabbed an AK-47 with a double banana clip on it, and I went outside and I opened up. So he's saying he just started shooting at the ship.
Was he deaf?
Probably after that.
Because you got to put on hearing protection, otherwise an AK-47 will make you deaf.
Yes. Yep. I don't think he had time for that. But he's saying that that's not the first time that she's had experiences. She's had a lot. She supposedly lives in constant fear. She's been quoted as saying things like she feels like screaming all of the time. Just she's that scared. Which again is why I'm just like, I don't understand. I don't understand when you have people that'll abandon haunted houses that they've just spent their last dollar on, and you have this couple that's insisting on staying at this ranch. I have a lot of questions. So Zach, he's the, I guess you would say the main guy from what I call Bro Ghosts, Ghost Adventures. And he asked them, he asked somebody that had experiences at the house, like, did you invoke the name of Jesus Christ to try to get rid of these aliens? And the person had said yes, and had indicated that had worked. And so his statement was that, well, why would that work on aliens? Why would you assume they have the same religion and the same, like why would that work? So he's saying what he thinks is that these are actually angels and demons that are visiting the ranch. I don't know why he thinks angels as well.
Because the ultimate battle of good and evil is taking place.
He thinks that there's some sort of
30 minutes outside of Phoenix, Arizona.
Apparently. So he's saying that it is a portal, but it's like a portal where angels and demons are coming through, basically.
It's weird to get churchy about it when it's aliens, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people that believe that some experiences that have been attributed to like religious experiences are potential alien experiences that have happened to people long time ago. So that's something to think about. Some people have even gone so far as to say that passages in the Bible are actually explaining like alien abductions or experiences instead of anything religious. So I mean, it's not that far of a stretch to see like the crossover there.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing about that is like, I think I've read a couple sci-fi series where they've talked about like, what are the Christian implications of extraterrestrial aliens?
Yeah.
And it's like, and then like in one of the books, I think the church and the Pope was like, well, if God saw fit to send his son to Earth to, protect his creation and save the sins of his creation, he probably did that with the other civilizations as well. So he sent like basically Jesus in the form of an alien to like the planet of the Greys.
I've heard that.
And it's just like, okay, well, that's because everybody is worthy. Everybody in God's creation is worthy of redemption or whatever. Because otherwise, like, they're just heretics, and we're the most important planet in the universe, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, well, that can't last because the history of humanity has been just one step after another of us realizing like, hey, we're not the center of we're not the center of Europe. We're not the center of
We're not
like
no,
Earth.
we're not that
We're not
important.
the center
yeah.
of the solar system. We're not the center of the Milky Way.
Yep.
We're not the center of the Milky Way is not the center of the galaxy.
Yeah, we aren't that important.
Right, and it's a one-way ratchet, right? So if you basically say like, well,
if you have a monotheistic religion, you have to explain exactly.
If Christ only came here and he ignored all the other alien civilizations, it pretty much means that we're a conquering menace.
Yeah.
Right? Like we're the chosen people, right? And that turns us into Templar-like zealots in an interstellar kind of view. So it's like, well, the merging of I don't know, alien belief and religion, it gets sticky.
Well, and especially with some people you have that.
Mm-hmm.
I found this with people that I've met that seem to be very, very religious, and some sects of Christianity don't believe in extraterrestrials. They don't believe in anything else. So I can see if I don't know his background. I haven't looked that much into it. I'm sure somebody else has, and it's going to yell at me for this. But depending on how he grew up, how he was raised, what religious background he comes from, he could fall into that category where to him aliens aren't something that's feasible. So of course religion is going to be what explains it. I mean, you have people that still attribute so many things to the grace of God or guardian angels that other individuals that come from different backgrounds would not necessarily have the same, wouldn't just say, well, of course it was this. It would, they would have different opinions on it. So I don't think it's that unusual. Additionally, I think part of why Zach brought this up is John was claiming, so he claims that he's killed numerous Greys.
Yeah.
He's battled them, and he says he battles them with a samurai
sword. With a sword.
Which you gotta chuckle. I mean, come on. He's got, what, an AK-47, and then he's using a samurai sword? I don't know. Whatever.
Close encounters, right?
Right, I guess.
I mean, close quarters. Close encounters.
Well, I don't get it, but whatever. He has multiple pictures. You can actually go. So if you're really curious, look up John Edmonds. I believe is his last name. Let me double check that. Yeah, Edmonds. He has pictures on his personal Facebook, his personal Instagram, showing like these puddles of what he claims to be blood and his samurai sword like laying in the middle all artfully. And he says that he is killed. When a lot of the articles I read were published, it was like around 18. So I'm sure the number has increased. But he claims that when he kills them, they disappear. So I think this is something that also leads people like Zach to say, well, they must not be aliens. They must be something like a demon because that doesn't have a physical body. So when you kill it, it just disappears.
Oh, like vampires kind of, where it's just like just dissolves.
They don't disappear. They burn up.
Yeah, but dissolves in nothingness.
Or they decay because they're really, really old and time catches up with them.
In the moment of their destruction or whatever.
Yeah. Like if you're 100 years old, all of a sudden all those 100 years catch up to you. But so he's saying that these things disappear, but John has also made comments about how if he like takes off their head, he can keep the head so the head doesn't disappear, something like that. But he's never produced a head, so a lot of people are like, okay, if you kill them and you take their heads, where's their fucking head? Show us a picture of their head. Come on, man.
It's only the first question that anyone would ask, including an astute child.
So what he says is that he actually retrieved a tissue sample and sent it sometime around 2009
to 23andMe.
No, you gotta have spit for that. So you'd have to be like, all right, now spit in this tube for me. But he sent this to a biophysicist named Dr. William Levengood. He claims that he has the report. John has the report from this doctor, and the report is from 2009. So I assume that around that same time was when he sent this sample. And Dr. Levengood has been quoted as saying that John had a smoking gun of proof of alien life on Earth. And what this report is saying is that the analysis of this tissue, it showed that it was a combination of something like an animal and a plant. So it didn't come up as just animal, it didn't come up as just plant, it came up as some sort of hybrid, and it wasn't similar to known cell structure that we currently know of as existing on Earth.
Did he win the Nobel Prize?
Here's the thing. First off, Dr. Levengood passed away, I believe it was like 2013, so fairly recently. He's also the same doctor who has done investigations into crop circles and has stated things like they were extraterrestrial, etc. There was some issues where people are saying that he lied about his PhD qualifications, potentially other qualifications, and information have been made up.
So he's a spurious dick.
Potentially. I wasn't
Rest in
able...
peace.
Yeah, see, the thing is, a lot of the information I was able to find about this doctor are from, like, UFO Today and, like, innercircles.com or whatever, like, these websites that were very clearly, like, UFO, like, pro-UFO websites to where I can't necessarily find anything... I guess more credible is what I want to say. I can't find any other information on him to find out what specifically his qualifications are. I also didn't look very hard, so come on, guys, give me a break. I'm sure that if I did some more digging, I could find out, but at this time, I'm going to say that he probably is full of shit.
Okay, so where have we landed on
Well, the other thing about this is...
Stardust Ranch?
The other thing about this tissue
Yeah.
is supposedly the doctor never gave it back to John, and when he died, it disappeared. So he's saying that...
I mean, if I found something like that, I would take it straight to, like, ASU's biology school and be like, I got this off of an alien. Can you test, like, or like, is it even organic, right? Like, or is it carbon based?
Well, Dr. Levengood died at the age of 88.
Oy.
So, I mean... Probably just, 88,
Dottie,
old age, whatever.
Dottie goofball,
but
diploma mill.
Yeah,
like...
John is like, he died of mysterious circumstances, the tissue sample disappeared. It's like, dude, he was 88. Like, if he was 50, sure. The dude was 88. He probably just died. It happens.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's how we all go. We die. So, I
don't know. I suspect foul play.
Like, yeah.
Like, we need to get the coroner's report. Well, sir, she was 99 and she drank every day of her
died.
life. Like,
yeah. So John has also provided pictures of what looks like the skin of horses and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if those are like, here's the actual picture of the alien that I got in the sword fight with.
No, he's saying like,
and then he's like, this is a recreation of it. And
no,
it's
he's like showing like, this is pictures of my animals that were mutilated, and unfortunately,
like, motherfucker, there are cameras right now that are motion activated. Like,
yeah, but well, if it's out in the middle of like a pasture where there's no power source or whatever, unfortunately, when you live out in the middle of nowhere, sometimes people, especially young people, are dicks, and what they decide is fun is things like cow tipping, or let's, we're Satanists, let's mutilate this horse. And to be clear, I am not stating that these individuals are actual Satanists, because everybody knows there's a difference between people that identify as Satanists, part of the Church of Satan, and people that are just like, I'm a grumpy teenager, I'm a Satanist, I'm going to draw pentagrams and all sorts of things. So, we know the news loves to call everything satanic. But when you're out in the middle of nowhere, dumb kids are dumb kids. Dumb kids get real stoned and real drunk and decide that they need to kill a horse for some reason. It happens, you know?
Why don't you grow up and just get drunk and stoned and, like, play video games?
Play a video game or something. Come on. So, and you know what? Especially, here's the thing. If you know the guy that lives down the street from you thinks that he's being attacked by aliens, what's an awesome way to freak the guy out?
You're right. Hey, let's be trolls, because apparently that's what the youngest generation does.
That's what they do.
They don't believe in anything. They just, we're awesome troll points. Turns out we're wrecking our democracy because of trolls, but whatever.
Yeah. So, I mean, we can't stay away from it tonight. What is with us?
Any final points on Stardust? Because we've been talking about it ad nauseum.
We got a little heated there because it brought up some points that are I think important.
I think there's some ethical boundaries.
I think with paranormal activity, you can run into, when you're talking about paranormal studies, you can run into so much stuff that's like, this is stuff that's important and we can't treat it the same way.
Right.
as certain other things, we have to stop and like take a step back and be like, what's going on?
Because not a lot of campfire stories involve rape.
Unfortunately, some do.
Some do.
And that's the thing, is we have to be careful with what we're calling stories and what we're, locker room talk.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be mindful. Additionally, one of the mediums, or I don't know what she was, but she was on the Ghost Adventures. She was saying that she felt the spirit of an individual that had died by suicide
Mm-hmm.
that was residing at this ranch. John said that yes, the previous owner had died in that manner. He shot himself with the shotgun.
Oh.
So that's a pretty violent death. Additionally, if you die by suicide, you know that that's something that's got a lot of emotions behind it.
Mm-hmm.
That, in my opinion, is definitely something that could leave an imprint on your surrounding area. So what the people could be feeling is just the immense, sadness or anguish or what have you of the individual that lived there, the previous owner, if that is true. And I mean, I'm sure we could look that up with public records. But if that's something that happened, I think that those kinds of feelings could make for a very heavy atmosphere.
Right.
And those kinds of emotions being printed on an atmosphere could actually draw other things, I know you're rolling your eyes over there, but if you believe in any sort of extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings or even just, demons, ghosts, what have you, other beings could be drawn to that, like what feels so heavy, drawn. So all in all, Stardust Ranch, I'm feeling a little bit
Icky?
icky.
I feel icky about it.
Yeah, like it's such a funny story,
it's just
and
like,
that was
oh
what.
God, like it's probably worth $500,000, and he's like, I'm selling it for $5 million because it's an alien.
Well, what makes me feel so icky about it?
It's like an alien ant farm.
Yeah, well, why I feel so nasty about it. Yeah, cute joke there, by the way. I'll give you that. We'll let you have your moment.
And also sometimes they have their way with my wife.
Yeah, that's what
And
makes me
it's
feel
like,
so icky is when you and I first heard this, we were kind of giggling. We were like, hey, Stardust Ranch, like,
my
let's
wife,
go.
yeah.
Let's take a picture. And we were looking at it, and all these articles were like, and she's been molested, and they want $5 million. And we were like,
the laughing stops.
Oh,
and it's just like,
yeah. And you and I were reading that, and we were like, wait, like all these news articles are just like, yuck, like treating it like it's
very whimsical. And
it's funny, and this funny guy can sell you his alien ranch for a cool $5 million. And we're just like, you guys are talking about his wife being molested in the same article that you're joking and being funny.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly think that this needs to be treated differently,
with at least some kindness.
Or leave, if you want to make silly funny jokes,
Mm-hmm.
cool, write your little article about it. You can leave out that, and he says his wife was molested.
Right.
Like, you don't have to put that in just
Mm-hmm.
because he said something to you. And that goes back to a whole other thing that we could get into about being, when you're reporting, when you're in the media, you need to be responsible about it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole other issue. Just, I think, when we're talking about things like this, we can enjoy the fun, whimsy part of it, like he hunts them with a samurai sword. We can laugh about that. But when he's getting into serious manner saying that his wife was molested, I think we need to take a step back.
Right, like there's a fun way to address that. Like
Yeah.
Phoenix is kind of getting known nationally for just random white dudes walking around with samurai swords, like the guy who stopped the assault on the light rail.
Yeah.
He whips out a samurai sword, and like the two guys that were beating up this other person were like, okay, I don't want to get
they're like,
sliced.
just kidding.
Like, never mind.
Because we don't have laws on like the length of a knife, so
yeah,
you
that
can
happened
carry a sword
in, I think,
around.
like 2011 or 2012.
Yeah.
You find it on YouTube. Just Samurai Phoenix light rail.
Well, I think this episode was to be like, look, Arizona's fun, it's quirky, we've got some neat stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but also we wanted to bring up some of those serious issues of when talking about the paranormal, that doesn't excuse you from treating people with a little bit of kindness, dignity, and not making jokes. Like, I don't care who you are, rape jokes aren't funny. That also is like, have fun, goof around, laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be careful about the topics that we're laughing at and the people we're laughing at.
Right. I was just gonna I'm gonna disagree with you there because I think rape jokes can be made funny, but it depends on who's the butt of the joke. right?
If
if the joke is to make fun of, or basically point out the ridiculousness and pervasiveness of rape culture,
that's a little bit different,
right?
But
basically, while you can make jokes, but at the same time, it's really gauche and just icky to even for a second like make the victim of an assault the punchline of the joke.
And it's that thing where it goes back to like you and I have very different opinions on paranormal activity.
Yes.
I don't mind you teasing me about it.
Mm-hmm.
You tease me about it all the time, on and off mic.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't hurt my feelings.
Right.
You guys as listeners can say I'm full of shit. You think I'm weird. I'm fine with that. Go for it. I know my flaws.
Right.
Go for it.
Any kind of reaction is fine.
Yeah, it's cool. But when people are like, lol, she got molested, let's not.
Yeah.
Could we just not? I mean, there's so many other things that we could laugh about and talk about, and let's not.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for Stardust Ranch. You can, I'm not going to mention everything that we mentioned. Like, if you found the show, you already know how to contact us. The Gmail is probably the most popular, or Facebook. So, yeah, we will see you next time. We were going to put up our video later of us doing the drawing for our tote bag winner, but I'm going to go ahead and announce that right now. Okay.
We'll put up the video later, but our winner of the Campfire Curmudgeon tote bag is Paula Sando.
All right.
So get at me and we'll talk about getting you that tote bag. Thank you for participating to everybody else. Thank you so much for participating. You're helping other listeners find us.
Thank you so much, and keep the campfire burning.
Bye.